This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business. Miniature painting can be a fun, amazing hobby, but if you have higher expectations than what you're achieving, it can be extremely aggravating. But here's the thing, it might not be you, it might be that you're going about learning all wrong. Here are the 4 mistakes you're making and how to fix them. First, you haven't mastered the basics. Miniature painting is full of new and exciting techniques. Non-metallic metal, silky smooth gradations, and interesting contrast from white to black or color-wise from green to purple. But if you haven't mastered the basics, slow the fuck down. Before you try layering, make sure you can apply an even base coat. Before you try non-metallic metal, make sure you understand light and volumes. Miniature painting, unfortunately, isn't magic. You have to know the basics before you can move on to the more exciting techniques. Trying techniques you're not ready for is only going to make you slower, frustrate you, and make the hobby less enjoyable overall. Instead, look at where you are in your hobby and set realistic goals. As a quick side note, I recommend the order of learning being applying a smooth base coat, dry brushing, layering, understanding light and shadow, glazing, and then wet blending. Second is you're not practicing the right way. No matter the skill or technique you're learning, you need to practice. My favorite way to learn a new technique is to practice on a smooth, primed base. They work perfect for practicing techniques like layering, wet blending, feathering, and glazing, all without having to worry about ruining your model. I will sometimes take a day and do nothing but prime bases just so that I can practice new techniques. Still having trouble with a technique? Then it's time to experiment. Different brushes, put the pressure onto different parts of the brush, or try different consistencies of paint even if you think they are wrong. The best way for you to learn is to try everything yourself. And you're going to make mistakes along the way, but that's okay. That's why we're practicing on bases, not on our miniature. Let's talk about this week's sponsor, Squarespace. There's something so satisfying about seeing your artwork online in a professional-looking gallery. So when Squarespace reached out to me, I was excited to build my own. Their gallery templates are customizable, the automatic image scaling makes my photos look good from preview to full size, and I love that I can link my social media so people can keep up with me with whatever I'm working on. The next time someone asks what I do for a living, I will feel far more confident in showing my work with this website. If you want to build your own miniature gallery to show off to friends and family, start offering commissions, or whatever else you can think of, check out squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/lyla.mev to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain using code lyla.mev. All right, back to painting. Next is that you give up on new techniques too quickly. So you're trying to learn a new technique and it just isn't working. The next thing to do before you give up is to go watch it on YouTube. Watch as many different tutorials as you can stand. Every teacher is going to explain things a little differently, and you never know which one of these explanations is going to make this technique click for you. Miniature painters like Dana Howell, Scott from Miniac, Ninjon, James Wapple, and more are all great places to go find tutorials for whatever technique you're practicing. However, if even with these videos your technique still isn't working, then it's time to do a little bit of investigating. Pause and take a look at the tutorial you're trying to mimic. What sort of brush do they use? Does it have a large belly, or is it small and narrow? What consistency of paint does it look like they are using, and is yours similar? Really examine each step of their painting process and how it compares to yours. If your step 1 doesn't look like their step 1, then you are doomed to fail. Don't move on to step 2 until you are confident in step 1. And if you get to the end of the video and what you've painted looks nothing like what you've seen on the screen, then it's time to do a little bit of thinking. Was this an oops mistake where you deviated from the instructions and it thereupon didn't end up how you expected? Which is what happened on this miniature for me. Is this an oh no mistake where you realize partway through that you are not ready to start this type of technique and you need to backtrack and work on your basics a bit more? Which is totally fine. You're allowed to put a technique down, step away, learn something else, and try coming back to this a little bit later. Lastly, and most importantly, is you're not seeing your miniatures. This is the hardest concept to grasp. I talked about it a little bit before in the tutorial section, where you need to be able to look at what you're painting and think critically about what you're painting. Is your paint opaque enough and evenly applied, or is there maybe texture? Where is the light source, and are your highlights and shadows in the right places? Are your colors actually blended? And of course, many, many more. If you just gaze over your miniature and say it doesn't look right, it's going to be a lot harder to fix. A great way to do this is to look at a pro-painted version of a miniature that you're working on and compare it to your own. Having a direct reference should help you identify where you've made the mistakes on your model and what areas you can improve upon. Consider things like where their highlights and shadows are, and not just from above, but where in each ripple of fabric have they placed those highlights and shadows. Pinpoint the areas where your model differs from the pro-painted model and look up tutorials on how to fix those problems. Is that learning a new technique, stripping and starting again? And if you're not sure what you should do next, take a picture and post it online to an online community. Being able to pinpoint your problems is going to make critique and feedback so much easier for everyone else online. Just saying, I want critique or I don't like this model isn't going to get you very far. Another technique to help you see your miniatures is by taking a photo of the model. A lot of times we notice things in photos that we didn't notice in real life. And if you want to be really detail oriented, you can flip that photo in an editing software. And just seeing it from that new perspective will help you see areas that aren't up to whatever standard you've set for yourself. All right, that's it from me. You know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, go join me over on Patreon and watch one of these suggested videos. Thanks so much. I'll see you next time.